Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where today, thanks to Kia of Canton, we're driving this 2022 Honda Civic LX. Now, I wanted to drive this for a couple of reasons. For one, I've only ever driven top trim Honda Civics, and as you know, we love base models here on Topher Drive. So when this popped up on the used car lot, I figured I would have to give it a go. I've only ever driven Sport Touring, SI, Type R, but somehow have never been behind the wheel of an LX. So excited to experience that, to see what $22,000 would have gotten you in 2022. And the other reason is this is now 3 years old. It's done just about 30,000 miles. So I'm curious to see how things have held up. Obviously 30,000 miles is nothing for a Honda Civic, but I'm just curious to see how some of the interior materials have worn. I want to see if the suspension still feels tight after 3 very normal years of use on a very normal car like this. So let's talk about what 22 grand got you in 2022 with this base model Civic. Well, under the hood, you got a 2-liter naturally aspirated K20 C2 inline 4-cylinder engine, making 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. Fun fact, this is actually 8 horsepower more powerful than the current base model Civic, just because they changed the engine due to some emissions things and whatnot. So this actually is a bit more peppy, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but than the new base model Civic. It has a CVT and it's front wheel drive. This one's finished in lunar silver. It's got hubcaps, it's got a polyurethane steering wheel, it's got cloth seats, all of the normal base model stuff. This one has the special bedazzled pink valve stem caps. And for tires, we have a Hankook. These are quite dry rotted. It looks like these are actually the original tires, 18th week of 2021. So we've got some originals here in the front, these Hankooks on a 215/55 R16. And on the back, this is just proper used car stuff. These are made from a company I've never heard of, and these are also a 215/55 R16. So I guess we have some fresh rubber here on the back. I imagine the car probably came like this when it was traded in. Also, this wheel looks perfectly good. It's got a nice glossy finish there to the steel wheel, and all the other ones have weathered a bit. They've got some rust on them. You can see if we go over to the other side as well. So it's just little things like this that I want to kind of observe to see how this Civic LX has held up. So let's poke around this thing real quick, and then we're going to commute this to downtown and see how close we can get to the 40 mpg highway that this Civic is rated at. Let's pop the trunk. We do actually have just a normal key fob. This isn't like a Nissan Versa where you still have to put the key in on the base model. And man, this 11th gen Civic, I've said this since I've been driving these for like the past 4 years. It's just about the perfect size for an car. You can see very big trunk space, very usable. And under the trunk floor, we do have a compact spare with a toolkit. All of that stuff still there, looking good. Nowhere to actually grab this trunk to pull it shut, so you do have to touch the paint. Let's go ahead and hop in this back seat. Quite windy today, I do apologize. Not the best filming conditions, full sun and wind, but sometimes when we're doing dealer cars, you can't really choose the weather scenario. Not that I can control the weather anyway. But back here, this is just about as base model as it gets. I think the only luxury amenity back here are power windows. We don't have vents, not that you get vents in any trim of the Civic, but we have no seat back pockets. We have no cup holders that fold down, only in the door panels there. But honestly, I think Honda's base cloth does feel pretty decent, and this doesn't feel too much different from the back seat they put in the Civic Si. In fact, it may be the same material, just with red stitching. Up front, you can see these seats actually, they don't match the back seats. A little bit different material of cloth in the front. We'll take a look once we hop up there. But before we do so, let's talk about room back here. Obviously, we know the 11th gen Civic, plenty of room in the back seat. Sat here behind myself, and this seat is not in any sort of comfort access because it is a fully manual seat, so this is exactly where I sit. In the back, I've got just enough legroom. I've got just enough headroom to where I think you could take 4, maybe even 5 adults in here pretty comfortably. Maybe a little bit cramped here in the middle if you had to be that unfortunate middle passenger. Let's pop the hood and take a look at this 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. Had to remember where that hood pop was. It's so funny because I've been driving a lot of Civics lately. I went to the launch of the facelifted 2025 Civic Si and hybrid hatch and all that stuff, and I had to memorize all the things they changed for the facelift, and now I'm having to like go back in time and remember how this car came in 2022. I'm going to hold this hood so the wind doesn't blow it into the windshield. So here it is, our 2-liter K20C2, takes 0 W20 oil. Again, 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque, which may not sound like a lot because it isn't, but this is a sub 3,000 pound car. Even though the Civic has gotten bigger over the years, it is still pretty light. And of course, this 2022 model doesn't benefit from some of the chassis adjustments and reinforcements that the 2025 got, but it is still quite a nice little package in my opinion, and I'm excited to put some miles here on this base model. So let's jump in, we'll get it started, and we'll go for a drive. Another thing worth mentioning also is this was 22 grand back in 2022. In 2025 now, a base model Civic will set you back about $25,000. So they have gone up a bit in price. Granted, they do come with some more things now. Didn't mean to interrupt that, but okay, let's go ahead and start it. In front of us, we get this half digital, half analog gauge cluster, which I don't mind at all. And we do actually have Apple CarPlay here on this little display there. I know that's smaller than the one you got in the Sport Touring, the SI and such, but otherwise, the whole dashboard layout is pretty much exactly the same. You even get automatic climate control in this base LX. All these nice little climate knobs. I am actually going to turn this up a bit. It's a bit toasty today. What's the temperature? 67 degrees and sunny. My cold Michigan bones are not used to this delightful warmth. On the headliner, you can see somebody maybe had a bit of an accident, a Coke and Mentos situation perhaps. Visors still look good. The one thing I've noticed so far is that the center console moves a bit when you rest your elbow on it. So 3 years of opening and closing this have worn it in a bit. You can see they have definitely used it. There are some wear marks inside. Otherwise though, this material has held up pretty well. Got some scratches here on this plastic indicating what gear you're in, but the piano black has held up nicely, mostly because it's just kind of in a spot where nobody's really touching. So it was smart for Honda to not put that down here, and it looks like this material has done quite well. Seat comfort still feels pretty nice. Again, this is a fully manually adjustable seat, but we do have power adjust mirrors. We have lots of driver assists on this car. I mentioned that it has a polyurethane steering wheel. Starting to see some signs of wear here around where your thumbs would sit. You can see kind of around the inside as well, but that just shows that the previous owner of this car was driving at 9 and 3, so we like to see that. They weren't driving like this. It looks like the top of the steering wheel isn't worn too bad. I always prefer a leather steering wheel, but I think this one does the trick just fine for a base model. Buttons and everything look to be the same. And my favorite part about these 11th gen Civics was always this big, long, continuous vent design. And I love these vent tabs to aim the air at yourself. It makes it so you can do so very precisely. Of course, we have a volume knob. We have the bass sound system, which you know we will be testing today. No moonroof, no anything in this car. I mean, it is pretty dang standard. We do actually have front auto up-down windows. That was a nice surprise to see. But all right, well, let's go ahead and get this thing out on the road and see what it's like to drive. Upper trim Civics have drive modes. This only has one, well, I guess two, nothing drive mode or Econ. Oh, which actually it was in Econ, so we'll leave it in that to start off. I'm also going to reset our trip so we can see what kind of fuel economy we get here. Into reverse, just a simple backup camera there. Forgot I didn't set my parking brake, which is electronic. Into drive, we do have an S and an L mode for our CVT, but no way to manually change gears yourself. Right off the bat, even in base model form, you aren't sacrificing just kind of the driving pleasure of a Honda Civic. This is kind of renowned as the most fun to drive in the class, even from base to base, between the Civic, the Corolla, the Elantra, the K4. The Civic is always the most athletic, so we'll go and hit some corners with this before we take it downtown. See how the original Hancooks on front and whatever was on the back, see how those handle a corner. Now, it is a very windy day, so you are going to hear quite a bit of wind noise here. Not all of which is the car's fault, but Honda does add extra sound deadening to higher trim Civics, so we will be able to see what this bass is like. Using some of that low down torque there. I've always liked the way that Honda tunes the CVTs and the Civics. No artificial shifts, it just is an honest CVT, which sounds so funny to say. But you don't always need it to be faking shifts. Suspension components and everything still feel nice and dialed in. It's pretty loud in here. We've got a bit of wind noise coming from somewhere on the left, of course exaggerated today. Let's put this into S mode for our left-hander. A lot of trust in these brakes. Let's slow it down. Oh yeah. Even on, hold on. There you go. Even on these original tires with nearly 30,000 miles on them, it still rotates beautifully. In fact, I actually kind of want to do that one more time. Yeah, this car feels great still. A little bit of a vibration from the brakes. Probably not the car's fault. Previous owner maybe was very dabby with the brakes. And don't worry, we will reset this trip one more time once we actually jump on the highway, because I want to see how efficient this can be, and this is not helping our efficiency currently. Let's see how this gets off the line. $60, there it is. Yeah, pulls fine. Very, very conservative tune on this CVT. Just love the steering on this car. No real dead zone. There's a little dead zone in the middle, but yeah, that's great. All right, back into drive. Let's do what this car is meant to do. Let's get on the highway and let's drive it into the city. I am going to reset this trip now. There we go. Start from scratch. There's a fellow Civic enjoyer here. Unfortunately, mine didn't come with that spoiler. He's got the red lug nuts too. And the fart can. When you're in regular drive, the CVT does its best to kind of just stay under 2,000 RPM. Keep this K20 nice and quiet. Ghost. Ghost is angry. I drive a lot of new Toyota products with CVTs, and they always drone a bit. They kind of have loud, buzzy, grainy engines, and I'm not really getting that here with this. Either Honda's just kind of elevated the amount of sound deadening that they put under the hood of all of these 11th gen Civics, or this K20 is just kind of an overall smooth engine. Probably a little bit of both. Road noise is where you have the bigger disadvantage with a base model, really any base model car, because if you're going for top trims of a Civic or a Camry or anything really, they're gonna have extra sound deadening, even sometimes in the tires, or like kind of stuck to the wheels to reduce rotational noise. This car has none of that. This is as basic as it gets. We do have auto stop start. But I mean, you can't even hear this engine. It's so quiet. Long for the day when I can merge at 70 right here. Longest entrance ramp in the world, and we still merge going 58. There you go. All right. Woo. Okay. The wind is pushing this little 2,900 pound car all over the place. Let's try out this cruise control. Why not? Let's turn on our steering assist, or lane keep assist, whatever you want to call it. This also has adaptive cruise. How about that? Okay, now this is the older version of this system. Obviously, it's a little bit more conservative, a little bit nervous. Yeah, see, this is on the closest setting. It's slamming on the brakes when somebody gets over. Let's take a break from that. We'll leave the steering assist on, though, so we can still evaluate that. The 2025 Civics, way better. Still not 100%, but the retuning of a lot of these driver aids, they have helped it feel more natural. I'll always have just a little bit of nostalgia for the 11th gen Civic, because the first ever press car Civic that I drove was a light blue 2022 Sport Touring sedan, same body style as this one. And I had just quit my job at the Honda dealership, and I had gotten into this whole thing with the Topher and Winding Road and Daily Motor. And I had this new Civic that none of the dealers had yet, because it was pre-embargo. I don't know how we got it so early, but I remember driving it to the Honda dealership that I used to work at. And that was just such a cool feeling. Well, let's talk about comfort here and ergonomics and everything. Well, it's a Civic, so it's cozy. Seating position, driving position, all that stuff is good. This loose armrest actually has a really good amount of padding on it. I can see why the previous owner of this liked resting their elbow on this console, perhaps leading to wearing it out a bit prematurely. Door panel's a little bit more stiff, but we do actually have some stitched cloth here and some padding, so can't really complain with that. That feels pretty good too. Driver's compartment, it's pretty good. This console sticks out a bit. Your leg rests up against it and there's no padding there, so just keep that in mind. But I mean, not everybody is going to have their leg resting over on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you actually have a lot of room with just the way that this door panel is shaped. Visibility out of this car is pretty nice. Mirrors do a good job. They're just about the perfect size. I think I found that out when Emily and I road tripped a Civic Si to Chicago, which did include this section of highway. We did drive through here. Very dodgy steering. This is a very quick steering rack. You can see very little inputs do make a pretty big difference. So nice for when you're going around the city or going around a corner. A little bit jarring on the highway. You got to make sure you are paying attention. Obviously the lane keep assist helps you with that. I'm going to turn that off for this corner. This lane keeping assist system has always been just okay. So never really had a problem leaving that on. I just think it's cool that you got all of this in the base car for 22 grand. A little bit of a howl from these tires. We've been doing 34 miles to the gallon so far. Ooh, should we test out the bass sound system? I think it's only right that we use Cobalt to test out this bass sound system. Let's do it. Got a volume adjuster here on the steering wheel as well. Nice satisfying clicks from that. All levels are zeroed out, just the way they come from the factory. Dear. Oh well. Perhaps should have checked what is going on in Ann Arbor today. All the more realistic setting. Today's Saturday, who knows? Some sort of sports ball, perhaps. But, okay, can't be mad at this bass sound system. It's definitely not the worst bass sound system I've ever heard. It's a little bit flat, of course. All I know is this traffic is ruining our fuel economy. Let's turn on auto stop start. Is the AC? Oh, AC off. There we go, AC off. Also, am I crazy, or do the higher trim cars have like temperature, to have a temperature gauge somewhere, right? Don't they? Or are these, maybe I have to pull it up in the gauge pod? I feel like something else lives on the outside of these two gauges. I could be wrong. Let's ask our local Ann Arbor expert if anything's going on in the city today.
I mean, St. Patrick's Day bar crawl.
I don't think all these people are going to a St. Patrick's Day bar crawl. There's no way.
Yeah.
This person trying to merge in front of me has no passenger side mirror.
Oh, God.
So, I don't know how they're going to see.
So good.
All right.
Good.
It looks like it's backed up because there is a single dump truck. All right, dear, I'm going to let you go so I can keep filming. Oh, he's broken down. There's a broken down dump truck.
Oh.
Yep,
So
causing total gridlock. Okay, I love you.
Love you too, bye.
Bye. Okay, back to our commute. That was very obnoxious, but it's part of being in the city. We have lost 4 mpg just from sitting through, how many minutes was that? About 5 minutes of traffic. So that is quite unfortunate. But anyway, wanted to compliment one other thing on this Civic LX, and that is the ride quality. Obviously, having these 16-inch wheels does help the cause, but, you know, Honda always gets their ride just about perfect. Just great overall tuning for city driving. I mean, throttle response is very, very progressive, very easy to take off smoothly. The CVT does a great job at that as well, keeping this thing revved low and quiet. Ride quality is great. It's a bit of a firm ride, but I mean, that's to be expected in a Honda Civic. Firm but not crashy, and as we know, that is the best kind of ride you can have in a car like this. Suspension components all feel fine still, just kind of like I said earlier. And nothing feels worn out in this car. Absolutely nothing. And you can't assume that after 29,970 miles, this thing has really had any major maintenance done. Like, it's probably just had oil changes. Maybe it's had like a set of rear brakes done, but that's it. Like, this is just 3 years of dailying a Honda Civic. And the person dailying this car put pink bedazzled valve stem caps on it. It's doing just fine. It really is. It has taken... I'm sure this car has seen things. It's probably a good thing cars can't talk. I don't know that I'd want to hear the stories from this one. So then, to wrap it up, this 2022 Civic, after 3 years, about 30,000 miles, still feels like a new car. I mean, as new as it can feel. And this is coming from what we can probably pretty safely assume was not an enthusiast owner, which is fine. I mean, not every driver has to be a car enthusiast, as we know, and this car does a great job just being a car. That's what I love so much about the Civic, is it's great as a car, but if you are an enthusiast and you are looking for something cheap to have as a daily, there are trims of the Civic, including the base, that are quite fun to drive. Even the new Civic Hybrid is great. I mean, I don't think there's a single trim level of this car that I would advise against you buying. And if you want this one, it's available right now at Kia of Canton. And if you do end up going to look at this particular Civic, make sure to tell them that Topher Drives sent you. I know there were some of you that actually called on that Mitsubishi Eclipse, which I think is just the coolest thing. So thank you guys for mentioning me. When you call the dealership, obviously they love to see that. And when they hear that, it means that we can get more of these cars to film, and we can drive some older stuff that isn't in the press fleet. So it works out for everyone. And yeah, it's a win-win. Let's use this auto down window. Let's not crash into the wall.
Please select an event. Welcome. Please proceed.
We have a physical dimmer switch. Turn those gauges down a bit for the structure. Nice and easy. No ambient lighting, obviously, or anything crazy in here. But just kind of nice white lights. This is a cheap car that you can drive and not be embarrassed, and also a car that you can drive and not feel like you're driving some cheap piece of junk. I think the only thing I would do to this car if I bought it is I would swap on a leather wrapped steering wheel from a Sport Touring, or a Sport. I think the regular Sport has a leather wheel too. Just something with a leather wheel, because the polyurethane wheel is just, it just feels very dry, like it needs lotion. But I don't think you can lotion a polyurethane wheel. That would just be greasy and disgusting. Ah, 4th gen Eclipse. There you go. It's the last thing we drove from the dealership. All right, guys. Well, to wrap it up for real, this went exactly how I expected, because I knew that this Civic, no matter who owned it, I knew it would still feel fine after 30,000 miles. But it's something that all people may not really know. And oh my goodness, the roof is closed. That's okay. We will just park right here. It's something that not all people may know, and I think something like this, seeing a 3-year-old car with about average miles on it, is nice for somebody that is shopping one of these. So please let me know if you have any questions about this car. Obviously, I haven't lived with this like I do with the press cars, but I'll end up putting probably 50 miles on it today. So, you know, I've spent plenty of time in it to kind of answer base level questions. But let's go ahead and shut this off, ending out at 31.4 mpg. And that is with quite a bit of traffic, which kind of killed it. I think we would have been up probably 3 mpg higher without that traffic, so somewhere around 34. And this just takes regular fuel. You can fill it up for like, what, 30, 40 bucks, and it'll last you a couple weeks on your commute. Alrighty, guys. Well, that is going to be a wrap on this very average used 2022 Honda Civic LX. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you leave in the comments what other sort of used cars you'd like to see on the channel, and you could even go to the Kia of Canton or Nissan of Canton website, take a look at their used inventory, and if there's anything on there that interests you that you want to see me drive, let me know. But that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'm gonna get out of here before this stuff blows over and destroys the Civic, or me. But that'll be it. Thank you guys again, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.